Rev up your engine. Now, if you watch any of my videos, you can see I'm not a big Carvana fan. They charge too much for their cars, right? But if you want a certain type of car and you want security, sometimes it's not a bad deal. Take the case of this Jeep. He had to pay $20,000 for use. It came standard at Carvana with a 4,200 mile, 100-day warranty. He took it to the Chrysler dealer and said, I want everything fixed that needs fixing. They did new brakes. They did ball joints. They even put new tires on it. Now granted, this is under the warranty. That didn't cost them anything. And under the hood, what do we see? A new water pump, a new power steering pump. They took all the scratches off the car. All in all, the Chrysler dealership did about $10,000 worth of work. He didn't have to pay anything for it. It wasn't as bad of a deal as you thought, paying 20 grand for it in the first place. But as old Scotty always says, hey, it's a Chrysler product. It had about 70,000 miles when he bought it. Kind of makes me wonder, you got to replace the power steering pump and a water pump already? But what can I say? The man loves this vehicle. He likes Chrysler products. So he's got this warranty, right? Well, he says, when that warranty wears out, he'll buy an extended warranty because he wants to keep it a long time. And as long as the warranty company is going to stand behind it like this and actually replace the things that need replacing, he didn't have to pay anything for it. The only problem is you got to make sure those warranty companies are standing behind it. Now, it's a nice looking vehicle, but he still has some warranty left on it. So let's hook up my fancy computer and see if he can get anything else for free. Turn on the main unit that you can't hide from the machine. Here we go. So we're gonna diagnose this with all the fancy sounds flying out of us. And we're gonna do the smart scan. Where we go. Okay, there's an awful lot of green, but there's also some red. So, let's look at the body control module codes. Right front fog lamp control circuit, short to battery are open, and the left front fog control circuit. So, odds are his fog lamps aren't working. They'll have to fix that for free too. He took it to the Chrysler dealer and they did find that code. But the fog lamps work perfectly fine. Now, that's as I say, with these computerized cars, there's some stuff you live with. This is a body control module code. B16FB-15. Those codes have nothing to do with your check engine light, with getting your car inspected. A lot of times, you can live with stuff like that. It doesn't really mean anything. But just for interest's sake, we'll clear them. And if they don't come back, it could be as simple as they didn't clear the codes. It's clearing it now. We'll see if it clears it. Because if it can't clear it, then it's an obvious problem. Well, it's not obvious because it's green now. If, say, there was an electrical short, as soon as I cleared it, it would just go back to being red. So maybe they just didn't clear it. Who knows? And as you can see, now everything is clear because those codes, they were over here and they're over here, but it's all the same system. That's the body control. And so that's it. Everything else looks good. So we might as well just look at raw data while we're here. So I'll start it up. So here we go, data stream. We'll select them all. Then we'll start looking at them. There's an awful lot of data. Watch this. Bum, 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 bum. We're still going, and we're only at the C's. Now we're at the E's. We're still going, people. Now we're at the N's. Okay, there's an awful lot of information, right? The long-term fuel, it's only adding 0.78%. That's of 1%. Perfect is 0, and you can see the range is minus 32 to 32. So it's almost perfect. Now look how insane this gets. You even get the high side pressure of the AC. We're gonna turn it on, turn it up. Notice how, as we turn it up, the pressure goes up. Well, that's what's supposed to happen. It didn't give you the actual torque of the engine. Watch this. I'll put it in gear. Notice how it goes up? You know what that means? That means the torque converter is engaging and working. Of course it is, because this thing runs fine. But if you put it in and nothing happened, you'd know, well, the torque converter's completely shot. We're going to have to pull the transmission off. It sure beats guessing when you're going to be working on one of these things. Yes, it's truly amazing what one of these things will do. You want your engine temperature coolant. That's the temperature it's running at. The engine oil temperature. Your exhaust cam degrees. Well, I meet a lot of mechanics these days, old guys that don't know much about modern cars. They'll say, that fancy variable valve time, and I don't understand it. Well, with a machine like this, they could learn how to understand it very quickly. Now you notice they're not all exactly the same. Notice they're slightly different. And no, there's nothing wrong with it. That's how it's supposed to be. You cannot make either the engine or the fuel injectors perfect. And when you get to this level, thousandths of a second. The computer has to compensate all the time to make it run perfectly fine. Because look, and you might say, look at the pulse widths. They're moving all the time. They're changing. How come it's not shaking? That's because it's compensating for it to make it run perfectly. These things get as close to perfection that an internal combustion engine can get. That's why if people keep thinking we can get better and better gas mileage, they're doing more and more to get less and less and less. Let's face it, you got a machine, say it goes at 99% efficiency, as efficient as it can burn gasoline possible, the way it's designed. What are you gonna do with that 1%? You're never gonna get it, and even if you do, what's 1% of 20 miles a gallon? It's not much. It's kind of like a cat chasing its own tail with that. Sometimes you can go too far. And let's say you think you have a problem with variable valve timing. Here it shows your desired position and the duty cycle. So when you road test and record it, you drive it, and you can look at the data, and you can see if it's desired to be at 10 degrees, but it actually isn't. You know there's a problem with the system. Go back a page here. Here we go of actuator tests. Here's all the different actuator tests you can do on that. Variable valve timing. You can check a lot of stuff, and of course, there's more than that. That's just the actuation test. Here's system tests. You can check the vacuum pump, oxygen sensors, you can set your engine RPM, purge vapors, ECU, and it's got a whole system test for variable valve timing. You can see there's 9 different set points for the system. And guess what? This thing can check them all. With all those pages and all these tests. Yeah, I could do them individually using my fancy fluke meter and a freeze frame oscilloscope, but it might take, I don't know, 4 or 5 months for me to do them. It's best to leave this stuff to a computer that can do it a heck of a lot faster and a lot more accurate too, because this is all working through the data stream port under the hood. If I was to check all that stuff out, freeze frame oscilloscopes, fluke meters, you gotta hook all the stuff up under the hood. How are you gonna drive that thing down the road without them vibrating and shaking? This just plugs in. It's a much better idea. Play a little game. It's called Let's Record It All. So, here we go. Now we're gonna take it for a road test. Now I just put it in sport mode. You can see the S there. It actually lowers the front end a little, make the suspension. This does have air suspension. And interesting enough, he got it replaced free under that warranty. That's part of the $10,000 worth of work he got that he didn't have to pay for. In town, yes, it's a gas hog. It gets like 10 miles a gallon. Here we go. Listen to that engine. Oh, sweet sound. Shifts like a dream. This is sport mode. And we're gonna look at the files and what's hiding in the files. And we can go through all of the data. Now this thing passed with flying colors. We'll go back to Smart Scan. Let's see what happens. And what do we see? Nothing but green. The BCM stayed up. So I'm assuming the guys were just lazy and didn't erase the codes when they were messing with it. I see that all the time, because when you get to these high level codes, you got to actually erase the high level codes. You can't just do a generic plug it in. It won't even tell you about these codes. You got to have a really fancy one like this thing. And a lot of times I've seen more people buy cars and have a zillion codes, and I'll say, well, what'd you buy? And they say, well, I bought this car. It was a wrecked car. The guy fixed it. He showed me the pictures before and after. I got a good deal. I paid $5 grand. And I'll say, okay, well, let's just erase everything I did. They come back in a couple months, and none of the codes came back. It was just because they were either too lazy or they didn't have the equipment to erase it. They probably just plugged in a generic scan tool that says erase code, yes, yes. It ain't gonna erase these codes. So don't be afraid if you're having a guy like me check out a car that has some oddball codes, but everything works, especially if your fog lamps work, but it's got a code for them. That's probably something that happened in the past. Even though I'm not a Carvana fan, he paid $20,000 for a car. He got $10,000 of work free. So that's $30,000, but he only paid 20, somewhere between 10 and 20 is what he paid, because he got all that free work. And the vehicle itself, yeah, it's got a good, strong V8 engine. It also has a ZF transmission, the Austrian company, even though the Canadians own them now. They're excellent transmissions. I've seen them at 180,000 and they still shifted like a dream. Gets 10 miles a gallon if you're driving like a maniac, but 21 on the highway in eco mode. Even though you got it at a Carvana, it wasn't that bad of a deal considering all the stuff he had done for free, even new tires. That kind of shocks me. They even put new tires on and they paid for it. So take it to a dealer, they say it needs this work, and they okay it, you're not paying for it. Tires are tires, brakes are brakes. You can see new ones were put on. That's not that bad of a deal. And As I said, he's thinking about getting a further one when this runs out, up to 150,000 miles. And he said it was like 1,700 bucks. That's not that bad of a deal. With you saw the complexity in this thing? That might not be a bad idea. I'm not a fan of them myself. You want to make sure you're not shelling out the $10,000 out of your pocket when something breaks. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.